It's just Jersey, man. We're a different breed. Who doesn't want to win in Jersey?
And the Scarlet Knights did not have a national champion before tonight, and it's RU times 2.
What's up, everybody? John Forger here, Breakdown at the Barn, episode 14. With me, as always, is the greatest mind in wrestling, Eric Winuff. Also, we got special guests today. We got top 10 nationally ranked Scarlet Knight Regional Training Center athlete, 81 match winner, and the 2010 Crossroad Badminton champion. We got Jordan Pagano here. How you making out, Jordan?
I'm doing all right. I'm happy you brought up the badminton thing. That's my claim to fame.
That's big time, man. Don't ever lose sight of that. It's a big tournament. I know you trained hard for that. Got it done in 2010. So keep that rolling. How you making out, Eric?
I'm doing good, man. Just got back from practice with the little guys. We opened up 1-0 on a Northern New Jersey Wrestling League. So the kids are pumped. We're ready to get a season. We lost it last year, so the kids are ready to roll. So I'm excited.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So, here we got episode 14. We know about New Jersey exit 14 on the Turnpike, and that's going to Newark, right? You just returned from Newark, Jordy. How was that event at the Prudential Center a few weeks ago? I know I had fun being there. How was that on the floor for the athletes and everything?
It was cool, man. I think that was a good venue. I think it gave the guys a little bit of a feel of what it feels like to be in a big arena. I know it wasn't packed like the national tournament will be or what Big Tens will be, but it gives you that big tournament feel. The venue was awesome. And I think going forward, it could be even better, especially if you get those high school matches involved. You had those high school all-star matches. I thought that was pretty cool, especially for those young guys being right there and watching, the next level they want to be at. And I think our guys, they enjoyed it. They had a good time.
Yeah. And real quick, John, I'm going to go off script for a second because Jordan mentioned something, and I want to get his perspective here. So, because a lot of fans, Jordan, give crap to wrestlers for quote-unquote ducking. And I want to speak to us as a wrestler because I think what happens is a lot of this is driven by the coaches and whether it's strategic decisioning on placement for, obviously, the national tournament or just trying to set them up or protect them. But a wrestler wants to wrestle. I've always said that. So, a lot of guys will say, why Spencer Lee's ducking this guy or this guy's dumb? I'm like, dude, these guys want to wrestle. So, Jordan, talk to me as a wrestler. Is that something you guys want to do? And we all wrestle, but obviously you kind of took it at a little bit more of a different level than some of us. Talk to us as a wrestler, what you think about those situations where you're asked to, either sit down or you're not going to wrestle that match.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing about our team or our coaching staff. Coach Goodall has never, and I was injured like often or hurt or whatever, banged up. And Coach Goodall never was like, hey, take this one. And he wants to win dual meets and a coach should want to win dual meets. And one thing I always said, and I can say that not all guys think this way. I always wanted to compete because wrestling practice is not fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun to go through wrestling because to go through a wrestling practice, grind like that, wrestle really hard, and then have nothing to show for it.
Right.
Any chance there wasn't open, I wanted to go compete.
Yep.
Because I was like, I practice. Like, I want to go win a match. Like, I want to make it worth it. But there are guys who are like, they just want to go through practice and kind of get by. But, you bring up Spencer Lee. Spencer Lee is the best kid in the country. He's not ducking anybody.
Exactly.
He's doing maintenance right now, and I think Iowa gets that, and they want to win a team title. But I think there are guys who, maybe do feel like, oh, I need a day. But no, I always wanted to compete, and I think the best guys do want to compete. But no, I don't. Spencer Lee's not ducking anybody. Yeah. I don't think the UNC thing. I don't think for the most part they were ducking anyone. I think there was some real injuries that might have happened in the Wisconsin matches, but. No one wants to see that. If I got injured in the match before, I'm probably wrestling the next one. If it's the same day, I'm probably wrestling it and then, figure out how serious it is afterwards. But I know Donnie and Goody would be like, no, you feel good. Like, you feel good. And I'd be like, yeah I do feel good. Like, whatever. So.
Yeah. So Jordan, you're well on your way to being a coach because you gave the politically correct answer. So you've been trained well, and that's the recruiting spin, man. If you're a New Jersey athlete and you want to wrestle and you don't want to duck, you come wrestle for Goody and Donnie. You know, you got the shot. So.
Yeah.
All right, John, you're back, buddy.
That's what I'll say. Good answers there. And, big weekend actually for Rutgers. Rutgers wrestling wasn't on the map, but we had one guy, Seabass, getting out there with the Puerto Rican national team, winning the spot. What were your thoughts about his performance? Winnock sporting the shirt today. What were your thoughts there?
Well, I think Seabass is obviously a competitor. He wants to be kind of successful in the international scene. So I'm really happy for him to get that nod yet again. We want to see Seabass out there in the Olympics. I think for him, it was obviously it's going to get tougher for him once obviously we get past the trials and we actually get with the big boys. But this also answers a lot of questions. I think people were questioning whether Seabass should go 133, should he go 141, maybe. Sammy's better at 141, but obviously the fact that he wants to compete internationally and now he's got this spot, he's going to want to keep his weight closer to 141 because that's closer to Olympic weight. But I thought he wrestled great. I think he's really starting to peak. I think he's looking better than he did a year and a half ago. I think he's really starting to grow into this weight. So I'm excited to see him wrestle. And listen, Puerto Rico is still, I still view them as a U.S. team. So not only am I happy for him as a U.S. wrestler, but as a Puerto Rican wrestler, I'm excited, man. Let's go win the national title and let's go win Olympic gold.
Sounds good. What were your thoughts, Jordan?
Yeah, I think kind of like what Eric just said. I mean, he's like peaking. I don't even know if I want to call it peaking at the right time or what, but right now everything's just like clicking on all cylinders. He looks great. And I'm not even talking freestyle. Folk style, his top, his bottom, his neutral. Everything's so crisp, and even in the room, he's lighting it up, and he's just I'm excited for him, man. That weight's gonna be really fun to watch this year, and I think Seb has looked his best right now. He's gonna make some serious runs.
Nice. And I'll tell you what, you also got an upgrade in there at that Scarlet Knight Regional Training Center this week. Just news dropped today. Jeff Buxton coming on as the coach. What are your thoughts being somebody in that room, getting Jeff Buxton in there with, you also got the Rutgers coaches. You also got Leo in there. I mean, what does he add to the table?
He brings a lot to the table. I mean, a wealth of knowledge from folk style to freestyle. He's been on the scene in both of those styles for a while. A big New Jersey guy, right? That's probably going to be huge for recruiting in terms of getting those guys from, Blair and Del Barton, the guys that, maybe tend to go Ivy or maybe tend to leave New Jersey and go somewhere else. I think Buxton's going to have a lot of influence on a lot of those guys. He's still huge in New Jersey and works with a lot of guys at the high school level. And then on the senior circuit for us, it's big. I mean, he's been around the world wrestling, and he knows wrestling better than anyone. He's a really good guy. He's been in that room for a couple weeks now helping out. He's got a great ride with that Blair ride. I mean, it's called the Blair ride because of him and his team, right? We don't really call that a single wrist. You call it a Blair ride. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to start working with him, and he's going to be huge for us. And I actually have a pretty good Buxton story. When I first transferred to Bergen Catholic, Coach Buxton used to run our first 2 days of practice. Back then, you weren't allowed to work out before Thanksgiving. So Buxton would do our practices. It was like a Buxton clinic, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it was kind of my first time really meeting him. Mm-hmm. And I'm wrestling with Johnny Sebastian, who at the time, he was trying to win his third state title. Number one kid in the country at 182 pounds. I was maybe 162 soaking wet, wrestling 160. And Johnny's kicking the crap out of me. And Coach Buxton comes up to me. He's like, "What's your name?" I was like, "Jordan." And he was like, "You freaking stink." I was like, what? I was like, "This is the number one kid in the country." He's like, "He's the number one kid in the country at 182. He stinks too then." And it was just, he was just going off on us, and I was getting my butt kicked, and it was so funny, man. That's like my favorite Buxton story. He's just so blunt. Just told me I stunk because I was getting my butt kicked.
I'll tell you, Jordan, that's when you know you've hit the big time and you got a coach basically put you down and tell you where it's at, because your whole career you're lifted up and told how great you are, and you're doing good against him. He's tough. I tell that to my kids all the time. They lose a tough match. I'm like, that kid plays top 5 in the state. When you have a coach look at him like, you suck.
Yeah,
it's like it knocks you down a peg, man.
Yeah.
He was like, what's your name? Gave him my name. I thought maybe he was gonna say something nice. He's like, you freaking suck, man.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So, John, a couple things on this hire. I think it's huge. Number one, obviously he was a national prep champ in 75, outstanding wrestler in the 80 Northeast Region Olympic trials. Everything he did at Blair, and obviously, what he brings in terms of Del Barton, he's going to bring legitimacy to, I think, the parochials, to the Rutgers program. And I'm sure you know that, Jordan. You're a Bergen Catholic guy. It's always been tough to get into that parochial school. Obviously, you guys think Ivy. You think, even the Michigans or even the Penn States, those big public names. You never think about going to Rutgers. I know back in my day, I wrestled for Rutgers for a reason, because it didn't have the big name at the time it does today. I'm really proud of what this team has become today. Imagine if we start breaking through with those Blair kids. So I think from that standpoint, it's really important. But number two, there was a gap in terms of coaching. Obviously, when we were part of the NJRTC and you had the acrobat down there, Humphreys coaching the program. And listen, he's a good coach, okay? But I think we needed to put our own name and our own stamp. Scarlet Knights Wrestling Club needs to start differentiating itself, okay? I think we've been in a little bit of a donut hole in terms of where we are. We've got a huge name. Obviously, we've got Miles Martin, and he's been, I'll tell you, Jordan, just talking to him, Matt's side, just a great individual, the hell of wrestling, just what a great individual he is. So we are starting to build this program, but we needed that piece to kind of bind it together. So, just talking to Leo last week and now seeing it as official, to me, this is huge because it gives us a name in the coaching staff. It gives legitimacy to the Scarlet Knights Wrestling Club. I think it now can start building out like we were doing with the NJRTC. And now we're back. I think we're back on the map. We got the wrestlers, we got the coach, we've got the legitimacy, and we've got that pipeline to the parochial. So I think it's all good stuff, John.
Yeah, I think it's going to be big things. I think you got to be excited about the direction and just bringing in some more names. And it's like the next step, right? This is the next step on the ladder that Rutgers is going to climb. I think they built with New Jersey talent. You see them starting to get some out-of-state hammers. They just got a big recruit at 165 from California, so they're starting to pull that out-of-state hammers. And then like Winuk said, now they're going to start pulling with these parochial schools around here, and I think it's going to be going to do big things for the Knights. So coming up, this is one of my favorite times of year, Midlands. Midlands time. I'm excited Rutgers to be back at Midlands. We'll go through the weight classes. First off, great tournament, pretty much hammers in there. But I do want to, educate you a little bit, Jordan. You don't know what the 90s were like in the Midlands, man. It was friggin' insane. So I went back, I pulled up my weight my junior year. I'm gonna read off this weight class. This is nuts, man. Midlands they used to have on the t-shirts, it said where the elite meet to compete. Now I think it's on the t-shirts, it says some elite, some go to the scuffle, and some stay at home for the holidays. Everybody went to Midlands back in the day. So I pulled up my weight my junior year. You had co-champs in the finals. Iowa, they put Bill Zadek, world silver medalist, and Mike Zadek. Brothers made the finals. Mike Zadek was an Olympian. So that's your finals right there.
That's weak, though. Co-champions. That's pretty weak.
I agree. See, this is the thing. Me and my brother, I'll tell you what, if we played Tecmo Ball, we got in fist fights. You put us in a Midlands final, man, someone's getting their nose broken. That's what I say. I don't know why they went with the co-champion things. I think Iowa needs to toughen up a little bit there. What do you think about that, co-champions or not?
Before I talk about co-champions, let's talk about what Midlands was, because you're absolutely right. This was almost the tournament that there was the national championship, there was the Big Ten, and then there was Midlands, okay? And it was literally in that order. And you said like the Southern Scuffle, I think, is pulled away from it, so it doesn't quite have, but there's still we'll get to a lot of good teams. But co-champions, nah. There's one champ. There's no such thing as co-champ. I asked, your question for you, John, is though, when you wrestle Midlands, okay, were you ever called outside the arena, and were ever called outside?
I'll get to that in a little bit. Let me run down this weight class first, because I know the story Eric's talking about. Number 3, third place, Adam Tirapelli, national champ. Fourth place, you got Mr. Roger Chandler, national finalist. His only loss was the Kerry Cola. Fifth place, you got Dave Esposito, national finalist. Now, sixth place in the Midlands, right? This is a guy, John Fisher, four-time All-American, number 2 on the Olympic ladder to the GOAT, John W. Smith, and actually beat John Smith the year he won the Olympics in the best 2 out of 3. He took one of those matches from him. And then 7th, 8th, you got Quinn Foster and Eric Schmeezing, who they got a couple, both of them were, I think, 2-time All-Americans. So, that was the weight class, man. I knocked off 2 guys in the top 10 that year. I lost in the round of 16. So it was pretty insane, during that era. And that was normal, man. Normal, you had those weight classes. It was a grind.
Yeah, that's tough. It's definitely not like that anymore.
Yeah.
I would say now CKLV, Cliff Keen has taken the reign at probably the toughest in-season tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now I want to go over another Midlands match. I'm going to put it up on the screen. This is Rutgers. Andy Rory was the 8th seed. He's going against Olympian Joe Williams. Overtime, this is a takedown. He took him down. I think there was some Midwest home cooking there with Iowa, Gable. I think this was a takedown. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Takedown. Roy's got it, man. He got jobs. You know that. We talked about it.
Yeah, you sent me the video. I watched it. It's a bad angle, but it looks pretty clear that he reached across and grabbed the ankle. And I don't know what the rules were back then, but I know I made a living off of holding one ankle and just using my reach and grabbing the other one and securing 2 every time.
Yeah.
3 points. Control. 3 points. It's a takedown. That's it. There's no debate.
Yeah, it looks like a take.
Yeah, I think so too. So Joe Williams just was on Flo's top 100 wrestlers of all time. I think he checked in at number 58 or something. Andy Rory, Rutgers legend, multiple time. He was in the round of 12, never got that All-American status, but this match showed what he could do out there. And I know Eric referred to it earlier. I was wrestling Joe's brother, TJ, my sophomore year. So sophomore year, I wasn't, I never was that great, but, coming in as a sophomore, I get the national champ, TJ Williams. And I'll tell you what, one of the proudest achievements I have in college is that sophomore year match. The score was very lopsided, but the match was over. I shook hands. TJ looked at me and he said, "You want to finish this outside?" That's something that I'm very proud of. I'm excited about that because I think I gave him a little something on the edge. He was doing the Iowa thing, shoving my head down. I wasn't going to take it. I threw some elbows in or shoulders in there going out of bounds. So I'm very proud of that. You don't need to finish it outside if you think you just got all you could get off of somebody, right?
Absolutely, man. You don't mess with a Southern Jersey boy either.
Yeah, you must have pissed him off. I think you would have won that one outside too.
No, yeah. I don't think so. I won, I didn't go outside because it's December in Chicago. It's freaking cold out there. 2, he was tossing me on the mat, man, and on concrete. I think that would have hurt. I went in the backside. I got some W's in the backside. You don't get 110 wins being dumb like that. So he was a friggin' beast, man. I think he would have took it to me outside. I think I made the smart decision.
You know what though? You hit on it, John. Though, if someone's going to call you out, that means you did something. Because if they didn't think much about you and they just wiped the mat, honestly, those elite level wrestlers, they barely shake your hand, and then the match is over, dude. I'm not even talking to you. Okay. So anytime you get a little bit of that extracurricular after a match, you did something good. So I think that's something to be proud of.
Got it. Yep. So I agree. So let me tell you, we are going back to those days. I saw Mark Hall registered for the Midlands.
Yep.
I think we got 2 other big names coming into the Midlands, right? Jordan, you can break the news right now. Who do we got entering the Midlands for Rutgers?
Yeah, we got some freshman hammers right now. We got Anthony White will be wrestling and Joey Oliveri. So two young studs gonna try to get themselves a Midland title at 149 and 133 respectively.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see these guys in it. Joey Oliveri took the East Stroudsburg Open title. We know Anthony White took the Bearcat Open, took the Millersville title. Guys are getting W's in there. Now it's like, let's see them against this elite field and see what they could do. So I'm very excited there. Let's go through some of these weight classes. We'll go 33 first, right? Joey Oliveri is going to be in the mix, as well as Sammy Alvarez, right? Rutgers Sammy Alvarez took he's low in the rankings. He's 23 because of that one loss. I think this is going to be Sammy's chance to get some big wins over people. We know what Sammy could do. So 33 stacking up to be a pretty tough weight. You got number 3, Austin DeSanto should be in there. Lucas Bird, All-American from Illinois, number 6. You got Kolioko from Penn, number 7. Big things. I was on the phone with our Penn correspondent, Josh Baylor, today, and he thinks Kolioko is going to bring something here. Kolioko has a win over Austin DeSantos in the U23 trials this year. So big lookout for Kolioko. Mickey Philippi coming up from Pitt. We know that was Sammy Alvarez's first big win. He took him out. His freshman year. Dylan Ragusin coming off of a Cliff King title. He's number 9. Chris Cannon from Northwestern and Brock Hudson from Indiana. So pretty loaded weight. Jordan, what do you think about the two Rutgers guys' chances? Sammy and Joey. What matchups do you like for them, and how do you see that going?
Yeah, honestly, I like Sammy with anybody. Mm-hmm. I just think stylistically, just the way he wrestles, he makes it hard for everyone he competes against. And I just, like we talk about Philippi, and I just recall that match at the Scuffle and sitting in the stands and kind of being like, dang, man, like, Sammy's about to get torched. Like, this kid is, this is Mickey Philippi. Like, this is legit. And he's so calm. Philippi's all over his legs the whole match, but can't take him down. And, Coach Pollard likes to call Sammy the squirrel, and he just squirrels his way out of so many positions and into positions, and he's so hard to wrestle. I'm really excited for him, especially because, like you said, he's been, I don't want to, I guess disrespected is a little dramatic, but disrespected in the terms of where they have him ranked. He's not the 23rd best guy in the country.
Yeah.
He's probably
it's obvious. I mean, you get headlines once, right?
At least top 10. Yeah.
Exactly. And, right. And I don't think top 10, I think it is a little, I think the disrespect word is a good word to use. Cause if that was an Iowa wrestler, I don't think you see that big of a drop. If that was a Penn State wrestler, I don't think you see that big of a drop. I think it's, little Rutgers. That's what we are, right? We're still not getting the respect that we need. I think anybody who's really ranking the top 10 kids in the country, they would put Sammy in there. But that's where he is. I think he has a chance to pick some of these guys off.
Yeah.
Well, John, I think you got two things going against him. One, the fact that he didn't wrestle Big Tens or Nationals last year. Obviously, they dinged him for that, not making weight. And the year before, not to his fault, the fact that the Nationals got canceled. So really, we know what Sammy is. We knew what he was in high school. We knew what he did when he came in, and he came on like a ball of fire. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the resume kind of in the national level post the big tournaments to really back up taking a pin and not wrestling the Big Tens last year. So they're almost telling him, okay, son, you came out early, you look good, but you got to show us something in the big matches. So to me, I think if he can make noise here and place at least top 5 in Midlands, I think that's going to go a long way. Another thing, John, is I know we're going through the weights, and we talked about that maybe Midlands isn't what it was, but you still have almost 70% of the Big Ten competing in this tournament. You don't have an Ohio State, no Nebraska, no Minnesota, Maryland, Michigan State, but I think those are the big 3. But you still have Iowa, I think Michigan, Purdue's always got a tough squad. Wisconsin's always tough. So to me, I think there's a lot of quality wrestlers in this. And for Sammy to come out here and make real noise in this weight class, especially when you got Pittsburgh there, you got the UPenn wrestler, I think this is his opportunity to basically prove everyone wrong and say that I am a top 10 wrestler, at least in the top 15. And I think he's going to do it. I agree with Jordan. I think he's going to come out. I love Sammy the Squirrel, by the way. I've never heard that. That's friggin' fantastic. I love it. That's almost like the Roadrunner when, what's his name, was here from Peaburg. But anyway, John, I'm not going to give any predictions, but I think Sammy can make a run. My only fear is, like DeSanto and some of the Iowa wrestlers, my hope is that we don't see the wrestle 2 matches. And we were talking about this earlier, Jordan, about, I won't say ducking, but maybe not putting in a full tournament. My fear is, do all these guys really go full throttle all 3 days? Because this bad boy is going to be on the Big Ten Network. It's going to have airtime. We're going to be able to watch all the matches. I just hope and pray that these guys actually wrestle the first full tournament and we don't have 2 matches and then kind of, just kind of walking away come the end of the weekend.
Yeah, I agree. And this weight, like you said, this weight's stacked. This is probably one of the better weights of this tournament. So it's going to be really exciting. And I didn't mention Joey O, but I think Joey O's in the mix with a lot of these guys. And I think this is going to be a really good test for him to see where he's at against, the number 5 kid in the country, the number 9 kid in the country, the CKLV champ. So I think this is going to be awesome for him. For both Sammy and Joey, it's kind of, they're in not the same ballpark, but a little bit of, time to, put their foot on the gas.
Yep, exactly. And then now let's go to 149. We talked about Anthony White coming on board. We got MVB as well. He's been 9-0 for the year. We talk about the not ducking, but ranked guys just seem not to show up against them. I don't think that's a coincidence with where, again, you talk about where he's ranked and where he should be ranked, right? This guy took 3rd in the Big Ten, what he's capable of. You look at the top 2 seeds are going to be Yaya Thomas in Northwestern and Max Murin from Iowa. Those guys both finished behind him in the Big Ten. He has a good win over Murin. You also got Josh Hale, Austin Gomez, very dangerous from Wisconsin. I know you mentioned this guy, loving his name, Eric Legend Lemur from Cal Poly. PJ Ogasanya, hey man, is he gonna come to party? He didn't come to party at Jersey Mike's. And Anthony Artolona from Penn 2. Lot of ranked guys in this weight class. I wouldn't be surprised to see Mike Van Bro make the finals in this weight. Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't place either, just because of the depth, right? So I think, I think 149 in general, you have a lot of guys that are all pretty even. What are your thoughts there, Jordan?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that one with, Mikey could be in the finals or he could not place. If this was last year, I definitely agree with that. Mikey's kind of always been a little inconsistent. I think this year, starting off 9-0, he's kind of found himself in a little bit of a groove. And I think being a 6th-year guy, like you kind of just, you're older, you're more mature, you know where you're good, you know where you're bad. Your wrestling IQ's got a lot better. And I think we're seeing that a lot with Mikey now. He's maybe not winning matches 12-1 or really pounding guys, but he's winning matches. And that's, that's what Mikey does.
And it's not 12-1, but it's convincingly,
Yeah, it's
last year and the year before he was winning matches by point or right in there hanging on at the end. I think he's still winning them convincingly. So that's a big thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I'm excited to see him against finally some ranked guys.
Yeah. And I think the thing we were touching the fact that guys not want to wrestle him this year. And the funny thing about Mighty Merkel MVB is he's got the ability to catch a guy. And I think that scares the bejesus out of wrestlers because, listen, he's not, when we talk about maybe he's not winning matches 12, that's not who he is, okay? He is a tough, strong, solid top wrestler, and his grip is unbreakable at times. He's not necessarily going to win 12-1, but like you said, John, he could just own a guy for 3 periods, maybe win by 4 points, but at no time was the guy in the match because he just physically dominated him. And if he catches you, whether it's his Merkel or some of the other upper body moves that he can do, he can basically put a guy flat in his back. And I think there's a lot of fear factor there. Why do I want to mess with that dynamite early in the season? And unfortunately, that's worked against MVB this year, I think, because and when you're looking at Sherman from North Carolina, I don't think he wanted any part of Van Brill, okay? He was already coming off a couple tough losses. I mean, this was an All-American last year. The last thing you want to do is go play with Dynamite, and that's exactly what he is. But you talked about Matt IQ, and I say this in a loving way because I love Van Brill, and anybody who's sponsored by Miller's Rentals, to me, has got my best heart and mind. But he's got to do the little things now to really make that next step, whether it's up for 45 seconds, get that riding point. Don't do something stupid out of bounds and try to roll over and lose that, that riding time, okay? Not letting a guy out with a second or two, okay? So those little things, Jordan, I think he's really got to master that. You said it best. Matt IQ is what's critical for Van Brill, and I think that's the difference from him, from taking that step to actually getting into that round of 12 and making some noise at the national tournament. He showed he could do it at Big Tens. Big Tens was no joke last year. That was not a fluke, okay? This kid, if he's on, can win close, tough matches because he's strong, he's smart, he's a veteran, he's a grizzled veteran, but his mind's got to be in the match for the entire 3 periods. He does that. He can pull a swing together. My question is, I want to see him against Yaya Thomas. That's the matchup I want to see, okay? I love that kid. He had a hell of a tournament last year from Northwestern. I think he really came into his own last year. There's obviously a lot of guys in this tournament that are good, but I think that's the big name that you want to go after. To me, if I can see that matchup with Mikey Van Brill, that to me is what I want to see.
Yeah, I think that'll be a great one. And I'll tell you what I want to see. I want to see an MVB Anthony White final,
Absolutely.
man. Imagine those two make the final. And make sure, Jordan, if they make the final, make sure you tell them both. Say, hey, if they pull the co-champions crap, Forster and Winnock is going to rip into them on the next breakdown from the barn. I don't want to see that. I got too much respect for those guys. I want them to go at it on the finals. I think that would be a great matchup for Rutgers Nation.
That would be awesome. I mean, listen, if I'm Tony White and MVB and we're meeting in the finals, if I'm Tony White, I'm like, I'm going to win my first Midlands championship. Mm-hmm. And if I'm MVB, I'm getting redemption from that, that indicator match from the beginning of the year. So I definitely think if that happens, the chances that happens, I don't know. But if it does happen, they probably will wrestle, unless we're trying to avoid injuries or something maybe. But Tony White, man, I'm excited for him. Just like Joey, I think they both have wrestled some pretty decent guys. White's got some pretty good wins, as is Joey. But I'm really excited to. Okay, now it's your first real test. Let's see where you're at. You're gonna wrestle your first, ranked guy in the top 15. Let's see where you're at. Let's see what we're working with. And they're both really confident, and they're both so tough, and they're so good. It's hard to believe that they're true freshmen. They're mat savvy. They have really good wrestling IQ. And they're both just tough as nails, man. So I'm excited. I think Tony White and Joey are both going to have great showings.
Nice, man. Nice. All right. So let's go back to the top of the ladder, 125, what could be. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'll tell you what, you got Michigan and Iowa there. Spencer Lee just wrestled his first match tonight. He had a tech fall against Central Michigan, so he's in the lineup.
I'm shocked, John. I'm shocked.
Number 2, Nick Suriano. Rutgers had one Midlands champ. That's Nick Suriano in 2017. Guess who else was in that weight? Spencer Lee was in that weight. He lost in the semis to Mr. Ronnie Bresser. Suriano took him out in the finals. Seabass took third at that weight. So that, that was the only champ we had. We had two seconds. We know our boy Donnie D. Philippus took second back in the day. That's when Midlands lost to Schwab national champ, and Mario Mason had a run to the finals. So I'd love to see it. What do you guys think? Do you think we see Suriano and Lee at Midlands?
No, there's no chance that's going to happen. I'm just calling it. I want to see it. I just don't see it happening. In fact, you said it. You just said it. Lee just came out, okay? Lee just needs, and Jordan, you were getting at it, he just needs to sort of get himself prepped for the national tournament, okay? He's not looking to break any all-time win records. And for the life of me, with that knee, or those knees, I should say, I just don't see him going 4 matches this weekend or next week. It's not going to happen. If we were lucky, we'd see the preview. I just don't think it's going to happen. Maybe if Suriano wrestles, because that's the question. Is Suriano officially on the roster now? Because I know he's going to start second semester. Is he even going to be entered in?
He's not. He's, I think, not technically eligible. I saw something today on it, January 3rd. That's not like my own consensus. I saw some today. Forgot what site it was. It was like a pretty reliable guy, one of the wrestling guys. They said,
I think you're right. And I think that's going to happen. So I think the name you didn't mention, John, is Pat Glory. Because I think Princeton is at this thing. So Pat Glory, I think, is going to be the guy to go after. I can see Glory wanting to really put his name on the map. Okay. People know Glory, another big time, Jersey kid, but I think putting a Midlands title kind of in his resume would really kind of put him up there. He's already top 3, but I think it really established himself this season. So I see Pat Glory going after, he's going to want a Midlands championship. So I think that's name. And the other 2 big names I would put out there are Schroeder from Purdue. He's always tough. He's a little up and down at times, but I think that's going to be a tough get in this weight class. And obviously, you got Barnett from Wisconsin. Those are 2 good, solid names that I think we're going to be competing against, but I think they're both beatable. Pat Glory is obviously tough, but I think Dylan Shawver, that's really kind of what I'm looking at in terms of the competition for this weight class, because I think I think Lee and Suriano are basically no shows. If Spencer wrestles, he's probably wrestling 1 or 2 and done. So to me, that's what I think we're going after with Shawver, and I think he's got a really solid shot to make some noise in this tournament. Like I said, Glory's going to be a tough out, no doubt. But I think Schroeder and Eric Burnett, I think they're beatable wrestlers. They're tough wrestlers. But I think that's really going to be the competition for this weight class in this tournament. What do you think, John?
I agree with you. I mean, we talked about Spencer Lee. He's on a pitch count. I mean, he had 75 wins coming into the season. We gave him an extra year to try to get to that big number, 110 wins. I don't think he's going to do it. I think, now he has 76. It's hard. That's why it's so hard to do. So I don't think he's going to do that. I think he no shows at Midlands. I don't think he's going to wrestle there. You said it right. Glory's the one guy that you think, 1 or 2 guys that could hang with those 2 at the national level. And I'm really looking for Dylan Shawver to compete against this next level crop. There's going to be some good competition in there. And also the 2 names you mentioned, you also got Cardani from Illinois and Augustino from Northwestern. So there's going to be some solid nationally ranked guys there. I think it would be great if Shawver, finishes top 3, top 4 in this weight class. I think that'll be a big feather in his cap for the rest of the year and good resume builder for him.
Or John, just knock off one of these top 10 Big Ten wrestlers. Okay, either one of them. Like I said, take out the Northwestern wrestler. That would be a huge win. He's already beaten the kid from Minnesota, McKee, who's not here. Obviously, Minnesota's not competing, but he shows he can do it. So to me, I think if you're setting the barometer for this tournament, it's go out there and get a couple of big wins and show that you can consistently take out a top 20 wrestler. That's what I want to see from Shawver. Hell, I want to see him win the whole thing. But if he could do that, I think you're right. I think he'd make a strong push to get in that kind of that top 4, top 5.
Yeah, Dylan Shawver, he's super tough, really scrappy. He's, an Ohio kid, so he doesn't have that Jersey toughness, but he's got a different kind of toughness. And, I love that kid, and he's really, really good at wrestling. And he's been a little bit inconsistent at times. He gets these leads, and then you kind of see in this third period, he's not fading, but he's holding on to leads, and that's when he kind of gets himself in a little bit of trouble. Right. So I think one thing I'd like to see from Shawver is just kind of letting it fly and wrestling, that full 7 minutes. And that's what he's going to need to do to beat those guys from Illinois, and to hang in there with Glory, to hang in with D'Agostino and a lot of those guys, right? So he can't just wrestle 6.5 minutes, 6 minutes 15. He's got to wrestle a full 7 and compete the whole time. He's good enough to beat anyone. So anyone in this tournament, I'm excited to watch him. Another big opportunity for him to put his name out there.
Cool. Good stuff. So 41, John, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time. Obviously, Seabass, he's going for the title. He's obviously a top 3 wrestler in the country. Obviously, you've got Ironman from Iowa, but again, I don't know if that matchup is going to happen. I would love to see, obviously, Rivera, Ironman, Nick Lee, those 3 last year. Obviously, Michik in Michigan. I don't think you necessarily see that. So
Michik, I do think I have a feeling you're going to see Sebastian and Ironman go at it.
I hope so.
I just have this feeling Ironman. I think he's going to want to win Midlands, and I think he was going to want to get that signature win against Seabass, and I think he feels confident that he could get it. So I think I think that sting of not winning nationals might be there for Ironman. And I think he wants to kind of go out and dominate this year and beat a lot of the ranked opponents. So I think you're going to see a collision course here. I think you'll see Seabass and Ironman in the finals. I'm excited for that, Wade. I like how Seabass is wrestling this year, and I think he might have got a little bigger and a little ready. We never got to see that matchup last year. What are your thoughts on that matchup, Jordan?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup. It's one that I think a lot of people have been waiting to see. We didn't get it last year at Big Tens. We didn't get it last year at Nationals. There was no dual meet. So I think that's one, marquee matchup at 141 that people wanted to see now for a little over a year. I do think Ironman's going to wrestle. I just, like you said, I can't see him sitting this out. He's, he didn't win the national tournament. I think he's hungry. I think he wants to beat everyone. And I think Seb, obviously, I think Seb's the best kid in the country. I'm probably a little bit biased to that. I'm sure the Iowa guys don't think that. I'm sure the Penn State fans don't think that, but I think Seb's the best. And I'm excited, man. And even looking past Midlands, the Big Tens, you're going to have Sebastian, Ironman, Lee, and Mitchell. That's crazy.
No joke, man. That's the national tournament right there.
I personally think that this weight class, and maybe we'll talk about it on another show. I think it's the best weight class of all time. I mean, you look at the one that Flo puts out there, the best weight class of all time, that 149 pound.
49, yep.
The trouble there is those guys got a lot better after that year, right? Like Darian Caldwell wasn't Darian Caldwell that year. Jordan Burroughs wasn't Jordan.
Burroughs wasn't Burroughs.
Nationals, never placed the Nationals, took third. So, you're looking at something in the past tense. Here you have four guys that are competitive at the senior level, like worldwide, so you got these four guys. I mean, I think that's probably the best weight class of all time. I'm excited to see it at Big Tens. A little more, a couple other nationally ranked guys at this weight. I don't think anyone that's going to sniff the top two, but one name I'll throw out there, number 18, Joe Zargo from Wisconsin, Bergen Catholic guy, freshman. Yeah. I think this could be seeing what he could do in this weight. I don't think he's going to sniff Seabass or Ironman. What do you think about his chances of taking out maybe a Dylan Duncan or Carlson from South Dakota State?
I'll say one thing, John, the Wisconsin wrestler's no joke. And I think he's another guy who doesn't necessarily quite have that national name yet, but I think you're going to see this kid really a couple years down the line. You made a comment about, 149. If you go back in time and look at 149 that year, you knew there were 3 or 4 real dominant wrestlers, but you're right. The names that we look at now weren't the names they were then, okay? And I'm not trying to say that Zargo's going to be one of those guys, but he's another guy where 3 years from now, you're like, oh, remember when that big coming out party he had at Midlands his freshman year, okay? So I think he's a legit wrestler. I think Parker Phileas is always tough for Purdue, but, he's been around. We know what he is. He's a fringe top 20 wrestler, but he's someone who can give fits. And the guy Rooks from Indiana, he's a tough wrestler. But neither one of them, I think, are necessarily they're at the kind of latter end of their career. I think Zargo will beat both of them. I think he could make a run in this tournament, and I agree with you. I think he's a name that's going to start to grow in this sport this season. But the bottom line is it comes down to 2 names. It comes down to Ironman, Seabass. I hope you guys are right because I want to see this matchup. And I agree with you, Jordan. I think Seabass looks much better this year than he did last year. I think he's focused. And we talk about believing in oneself. Nobody believes in themselves more than Seabass does. I've seen that. So to me, they used to joke about Kyle Dake that he's already won matches in his mind and he really believes it. I kind of get that sense from Rivera as well. Okay. Not only is he not intimidated, I think he's, excuse my French, pissed off from last year because you could see it in his face. Okay. When he didn't get to the finals, you could just see he was drained, okay, because in his mind, he was going to get there. So I think he's on a crash course to go after a national title this year. And I hope we see a preview here at Midlands.
What do you think about Joe Zargo, Jordan? Any
Yeah, I think outside of wrestling, he's a great kid, really super nice kid, one of the nicest kids you'll ever meet. And I think he's so tough, man. And I know he's a hard worker, and I know those Wisconsin coaches, they're no joke, and they make sure those guys are working hard. John Reeder is insane. He's a super, super crazy guy, super enthusiastic. And that's what Zargo needed. And I think he's fitting in really well there. And he's a young guy, and I think he's figuring it out. But like you said, this is the tournament where you burst onto the scene. This is where you make a name for yourself, and you kind of get that sense of belonging, right? It can go one of two ways. You can be like, man, I don't really belong Division I. I don't belong in the Big Ten. Or you can be like, no, I'm here to stay. Like, whoa, I am good. Look, I just picked off this guy. Now I'm picking off that guy. And then you just build from there on out. So I think this could be a really good coming out party for Joe Zarga.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go to 157. You know, we got Rob Kennard coming here. Another pretty deep weight class. We got Ryan and Quincy Monday. You know, they just met in the finals of Clean. Deacon won that. Also Caleb Young from Iowa, Kendall Coleman from Purdue, always a tough out. Will Luwan from Michigan, Doug Zamp. I mean, you know, our correspondent Josh Baylor says Zamp has All-American all over him. He's ranked number 18th now. He has some big wins. And a couple other ranked guys in this weight. I think it's going to be a good test for Rob Kennard going up against some of these guys. We've seen some good things from Kennard this year. You know, what are your thoughts on his progress, Jordan?
Yeah, I think Rob's another one who's really young. He's in the lineup. I don't really know if I count last year so much for Rob. He got sick towards the end, didn't really get to compete. And last year was a weird season. Not many guys got, you know, to really develop. So to me, I think Rob is he's still young. He's still a freshman, even though he's been in school for 3 years. I think he's got a lot of stuff to work on. Right. But he's so solid, man. And I think, you know, one of the matches we saw was with Austin O'Connor. Rob was coming off being really sick that week and just wrestled really hard. And he made it hard for the returning national champ. So a lot of good things from Rob. And I think, you know, again, I just said it and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this could be his coming out party, right? He's been in there. He's wrestled really good guys. He's had some good moments. He's had some bad moments. This could be where he figures it out, right? So I'm excited for Rob. I think this is a great opportunity for him, and he's got nothing to lose right now.
Yeah. You talked about Dylan Shaver earlier, Jordan Pagano, about maybe not wrestling 7 minutes. And I think that's kind of what I think Kennard fits that same kind of, you know, model. I need to see 7 minutes from him. I've seen him come out flat and then just bring it on late in a match. Yeah. And then I've seen him come on strong. And you talked about, obviously, the match he had earlier this year with Austin O'Connor, where he almost took a 4-1 lead. He was literally cutting the corner from having a 4-1 lead. And then obviously O'Connor caught him in that second period. And the third period, he brings it back up again. So I think Kennard has all the tools. He was a very accomplished high school wrestler. I think maybe we thought he would grow into 65, and that hasn't happened. So I think core strength may be a little bit of a deterrent right now, but I think he can dig deep here. I need to see the full 7 minutes out of Robbie. He needs to be consistent. The skill set is there with this guy, okay? And I'm not saying that as a homer. I'm just saying as someone who's watched wrestling his whole life, this kid can flat out wrestle. He needs to put in a full 7 minutes. I think he needs to finish those shots, and he's going to have to stand up strength for strength with some of these big boys. I mean, when you're talking about the Quincy Mondays, talk about the kid from Purdue, Kendall Coleman, okay? Kendall Coleman is a tough out, okay? He's that guy. I don't think he's necessarily going to make a run at a national championship. He'll be a fringe top 8 guy, but he can catch anybody. He's fast. He's strong. He's great on his feet. Okay, that's the type of wrestler that Kennard's going to be facing this weekend. So to me, or I keep saying this weekend, next week, I just want to see a full 7 minutes out of Robbie. I want him to start to put together a tournament, and I want him to put together full matches because I think the skill set's there. I just want to see him bring up his strength level, and I want him the confidence to show because he showed against O'Connor what he's capable of doing. Okay, he just needs to be consistent about it. And I think that's what we need to see, John. So, again, no predictions. I think this is a tough way for Midlands. You mentioned the names. There's a lot of top guys here. I think you got Deacon here. So, to me, it's not going to be a walk in the park. I just want to see consistent wrestling from Kennard. I want to see him put together full matches.
Yeah, I'd like to see a couple upsets from him. I think he kind of has that in his back pocket, and like to see him do that at this tournament. So let's go to 165. 65 is an exciting weight class. You got national finalist number 6, Jake Wenzel. You got number 4, Alex Marinelli, always the top seed at nationals, and you got number 1 ranked Evan Wick.
Cal Poly, baby.
From Cal Poly. So you got 3 guys that are contending for a national title. That's exciting. You also got Cam Amin, who's ranked number 11th. I think he's, again, someone who's ranked a little low, returning All-American last year, and a bunch of other ranked guys, Hartman from Bucknell, Ravino from Penn showed something. You know, Penn has some tough guys in here, Hamilton from Wisconsin. So very solid weight. What do you think about this weight class? We also got Andy Clark, freshman, again, someone, hasn't had close but no cigar in some of these matches. Would be good to see him get over the hump on some of these ranked guys. What are your thoughts about the weights, and what's your thoughts about Andy Clark, Eric?
Okay, well, I think Andy Clark, if he can put together a win or two in this tournament and start putting together some wins in his resume, I think that's what I want to see. I'm not going to have any delusions of grandeur that this guy's going to go make get in the top 5. I think Clark has been working his tail off. Okay, he's come close. I want to see a win or two in this tournament. If he can do that, to me, he can use that as positive momentum to start building. Obviously, and it's not a knock on the wrestler. It's just a reality that 65 is probably our lower probability of making noise in this tournament and really kind of down the season. But to me, I want confidence building here, John. I want Clark to show that he can step in there and string a couple of wins together. That's what I want to see what happen. He's probably going to get a low seed. I don't know where he's going to be put, but he's probably going to get someone like a Wick or Marinelli right out of the bat. So it's going to be tough for him. So to me, we're going to be talking about Clark and the wrestlebacks. And that's what I want to see, John. I want to see him put together a match or two and show us that he can string some wins together, build confidence, and take that to the second half of the season. So that's what I want to see from Clark. And to me, and the only thing I'm going to say on this weight class is Evan Wick. We knew Evan Wick was good. Obviously moving over to Cal Poly this year, putting that name kind of back on the map. He has been dominant this year, man. And I'm telling you, I thought Alex Marinelli was going to have his chance to finally win a national title. Dude, we might be talking about Marinelli as one of the greatest who's never won a national title. Because to me, unless I'm wrong, hey, listen, I thought the kid from Northwestern at 57 last year wasn't going to get beat, okay? I didn't think Sugar Shane was going to win the national title last year, so anything can happen. But the way he's wrestling right now, I don't see anyone taking out Evan Wick. I don't know what you think, John. But
I'm going to go Alex Marinelli taking this one. I think that, the Bulls been unstoppable during the season. I just think he's going to, in the Midwest, I think he's going to get some of that home cooking we saw earlier from,
Fair enough.
Williams match. I think Marinelli has enough to keep it close. I think he takes this weight class. What are your thoughts, Pagano?
I gotta agree with Eric. I think Wick has looked, incredible. That Cliff Keen, man, he beat some really good guys, and that match with Shane, it was a little bit more decisive than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. I think I'm biased to Shane. That's my guy. And I think he can still win a national title, and I still think he probably will. But man, Wick looked fantastic the whole tournament, and I don't know if I believe in Marinelli right now. I think Wick's got that one. And in terms of our boy Andy Clark, I agree with Eric too. I'd like to see, I'd obviously love to see him on the podium, and I think he is a really good wrestler, and I think he's got a really good skill set. But I think coming out of this tournament, 3-2 would be huge. I think rallying some really good wins. And again, I think he can be on the podium. I think he's good enough. But I think right now, for him, it's about building confidence. And again, kind of saying, like I said before, realizing you belong. And I think we saw that in the American match, right? He's wrestling a national qualifier, and he gave up 4 cautions, and you kind of see him throw his hands up, and he gets into his head a little bit. And then he rides the guy out to win. Matt returns the kid, I don't know, like 14 times. And I remember talking to him after the match, and I'm kind of like, that's what it is every time. It's got to be 14 mat returns every time, not, oh, this guy got to his feet, I let him go. You only wrote him out like that because you knew you had to do it to win. But it should always be like that. And I think that's, again, being a young guy. He didn't really benefit from the season last year. So he's essentially a true freshman, and he got thrown into the lineup right away. Mm-hmm. And I think right now for him, it's about just believing in his skills, believing in himself, knowing that, his coaches and his teammates and everyone believes in him. And I think this will be a good week, or a good next week for him. I think next week is going to be really good. And I think, we see a good Andy Clark. He wrestled really well with the Shorty Hitchcock. So maybe he's the tournament guy. We'll get a good idea this next week.
Yeah, Jordan, the last thing I'll say is, if you read the message boards from time to time, you get a little tough guys who like to run their mouths about, how 65 sucks. We can't recruit 65. I don't think people realize how tough of a weight class 165 is in collegiate wrestling. And listen, we talked about way back in the day when Richie Lewis bumped up from 57, and Richie Lewis looked like he was going to be a legit top 3 national contender at 57. And he went up to 65. And listen, Richie Lewis is no joke of a wrestler, and he just flat out couldn't finish shots. And that's not a knock on him. You got cats cutting from 180, 85 pounds down to 65 who are pure muscle. And you talk about the distribution of weights as a kid. I mean, in collegiate wrestling, 57, 65, that's where some of the toughest wrestlers in the nation sit, okay? So to me, it's not a knock on Clark as much. He just happens to be in a really solid weight class that's really tough at the Big Ten level and at his age. And I think he just needs to grow into it. And that's my thought, JP, on Clark.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So I like what's happening at 174 here. I really like Mark Hall coming out of retirement again. I'm on the phone with our correspondent earlier today.
Is he going to go 74?
That's a good. I think it's 74. I mean, what you heard 84? You might be right. Maybe it is 84.
He's an 86 kilo guy now, so that's 189. I think it's going to be 184 for him.
Actually, I would like to see that because I'd like to see him and Paz go at it. That would be
I think Jordan's right. I think 184 is where you're going to see Mark Hall.
Yeah, see Mark Hall at 184. So then it brings 74. You got Kemmerer, you got number 2 Kemmerer, you got Logan Massa from Iowa, you got Adam Kemp, number 10 from Cal Poly. Not sure. Are you? I mean, are we going to see O'Connor or Turley? I don't know if that decision's made yet, but one of those guys are going to be in there. What are your thoughts on the lineup, and what are your thoughts on Turley or O'Connor, Jordan?
Yeah, I'm not really sure who's going to go right now. It could be both essentially. I think we have enough spots to bring 2 guys. I'm not sure if Turley's cleared yet. I don't know if he's ready to come back. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really sure who we're going to see. If it's Turley, that's exciting because he's going to get an opportunity to get back on the winning track. Beat some really good guys, beat some All-Americans. I think he'll be in the mix if he competes, if he's healthy. Conor O'Neill, kind of similar thing with Andy Clark and Kennard. We've seen some good things. We've seen some bad things. I'd like to see him come out of this, above 500, 3-2. Yeah. I don't know how much we're going to see on the front side, depending where he falls. He probably won't, he's probably going to get one of the top dogs right away. And again, young guy, right? Essentially a true freshman. I'd love to see him make some noise on the front side. I think he will make some noise on the backside. Conor's a gamer. The message boards, a lot of stuff. Maybe, people don't think that. But he, that's the way he thinks of himself. And, he's got a bunch of alter egos that he calls himself. And he's a really funny kid. And he's a confident kid. And he always says that he's a tournament guy and he's the best when the lights come on. So I'd like to see him rally off some really good wins this upcoming week.
Yeah, it could be nice for Conor O'Neill to have a coming out party at 174. I remember, your year at 174, you had a good coming out party. That was when you were a little unknown. You were a backup, similar story here, right? And you took out Christensen from Wisconsin, who was the number 7 seed, I think, in your first match, and then came back against David Koser, who's an All-American from South Dakota State. You beat him on the backside, ended up placing 7th. Why don't you talk about your mentality going into that tournament? A little bit of an unknown guy, and then turn some heads.
Yeah, that was my coming out party, right? And I think for me going into that, I was the backup. I had lost my wrestle off to Phil Bakuskis, who was a senior 4-year starter. And going into the tournament, I was just kind of excited to be there. I was coming off a really good Cleveland State 2 weeks prior, and I was kind of carrying the momentum, kind of hit my stride. Didn't really have a great beginning of the season. Lost to some, not so good guys. Lost to, I think, some even backups to teams. And I was coming in like, all right, I have nothing to lose. I'm riding momentum. Let's just take it match by match. And slowly after each match, Christian right off the rip, I think it was 0-0 first. And I'm starting to believe like, wow, I belong here. I'm in this match. And then he goes down. I cradle him. And I think that ended up being the match, 4-point near fall. I think I might have even escaped. It might have been 5-0. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, after that, I was like, I'm pretty good, man. And I started to believe in myself. And then, coming on the backside, I had David Koser, who was, ended up being an All-American a couple years later, who was ranked in the country. I think it was like top 15. And I was nervous as hell for that match. Because now I'm like, man, I'm starting to think, like, if I win this match, maybe I'm going to be the starter. And I just, I found it in me, and I won the match, kind of dominated that one. I think I had like 4 or 5 minutes of riding time. And that was just the coming out party, right? And as soon as that happened, I was like, man, I beat nationally ranked guys. I'm feeling myself. I do belong. And then after that, I was begging Goody for a wrestle off, begging him. Mm-hmm. And then I was just, excuse my French, but I was on his ass. And he'll tell you today, I made it so difficult for him. Every day I was in his office, like, when can I get a wrestle off? When can I get a wrestle off? And I wanted it so bad. And I felt like, I was the starter. I felt like I was, I earned it, and I eventually did. And yeah, that's what this tournament can either like make your season or break your season. Mm-hmm. And you got to take advantage of that. A lot of guys are taking it easy because of the holiday. Maybe they're coming off a bad weight cut. Take advantage of it, man.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, remember that. And then you got in the lineup, and good things to come. National qualifier ahead of you, the Cuckus, and got that wrestle off and made the most of it. So let's go to 184. We got John Paz coming, and Mark Hall going 184 versus Paz. That's an exciting match, I think. I think Paz and Mark Hall, if they do make the if they make the finals, that's going to be must-see TV. What are your thoughts about that, Eric?
Yeah, well, before I even get to that matchup, Miles Amin in Michigan, that was supposed to be John Paz's first collegiate match last year, which never happened, obviously. He got the freshman from Michigan. So to me, what we thought, and the whole idea was, Paz is going to get Amin, number one guy. Let's see what he can do. Let's see if he can hang with him. And now we're talking about Paz. He's a national contender here. So to me, I kind of want to see that match because we didn't see it last year, and now Paz is a year into his career, and we now know what we have here. We have a much better feel for the fact that we've got a legit blue chip national title contender. So to me, I want to see that matchup. I want to see Miles Amin and Paz. Listen, Mark Hall is transitioning back to the folk style. That UPenn program, we talked about it, John. It's no joke. The Pennsylvania RTC has some serious firepower in that room. And you got even guys like McFadden that he's working with. So to me, Mark Hall is going to come in with some legit training under his belt, but he hasn't wrestled, folk style in a while. It's a much different mindset. You know that, Jordan. You're going in there, you got to go back to conceptually riding a guy. And you're going to have to deal with John Paz from bottom, okay? You haven't seen anything like that in a while because you're always in parterre and you're not necessarily getting that pushback. And he might be caught off guard by his little hook and kind of get reversed. And next thing you know, you're on your back and you're giving up 5, or even worse, you're giving up 6. So to me, I want to see if Mark Hall can bring it back from the folk style. But to me, listen, it's cool. It's cool. We're bringing back a national name who's international wrestler now. So I think it's friggin' awesome. But to me, I want to see Miles Amin and John Paz. That's really what I want to see, John. If I can see that, I'll be excited.
I just don't see Amin coming back for it. I mean, he's a third in the Olympics. I mean, we're talking about this. We talk about Ironman.
I know.
I'd like to see it as well. I don't see him coming back, but it would be nice to see.
That's what I want, though. That's what I want to see.
Great. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I would love to see Amin at this weight too. I think that'd be really cool. I don't know if we will. I don't really know how much folk style he's even wrestling, probably in practice. Right. Like you just said, he took bronze at the Olympics. That's a big deal. So I think it's cool that he's coming back his senior year to try to win his first national title and help those guys. I don't know how much we're going to see of him. I'd love to see him this weekend. I'd love for Paz to get a chance to wrestle him. And the Mark Hall thing, I don't love it. I'm not a super big fan of guys coming back to wrestle in this one. David Taylor did it a couple. Yeah. I think I think I wasn't wrestling at Midlands yet, but I was on the team. Oh no, I did wrestle in Midlands that year at 65, and he did it. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, man, what are you doing here? You won nationals twice.
You're
Like,
better than this.
This is the Midlands. Like, you know, like you stated earlier, John, like the Midlands isn't what it used to be. Like this is like your third toughest, maybe second toughest in-season tournament. Like, what are you doing competing here, man? You're taking someone's Midlands title away from them. And I think he wrestled TJ Dudley in the finals, and it was actually a really close match. And I think Taylor got like a late takedown to win it. And I think, like Eric said, not wrestling folk style every day, or maybe not riding guys consistently in practice, or when you're not training it, it's so different. Coming into this season, we wrestled freestyle so much, and I was wrestling with Miles a ton. And now we're back in folk style mode. And now I'm wrestling folk style, and I'm like, man, I forgot how tiring riding is. Yeah. I forgot how hard it is to get out from bottom. Yeah. I think that's going to be the difference. Is Mark Hall going to wrestle these guys on the mat? How much? Yeah. Or is he just going to let everybody up? I don't know what he's going to do.
Up. Yeah. And let me tell you, man, this is the old school and new school, man. I love it. I mean, that's what it was back in the day. Everyone's going to the Olympics. They come back to win.
It's an open tournament, man. It's an open tournament.
Up there flashing up how many Midlands titles, you know, most Midlands titles, most points scored at Midlands. I mean, people come back for that. And, you know, that was exciting. Not what it used to be, but I think it's cool. Hopefully, from my standpoint, you get to see some other people follow suit. So now let's go to 197.
And John, real quick, I'm sorry not to go back to 184, but one name we didn't mention, Bernie Trout from Cal Poly.
Very good.
He's a dark horse to make some noise in this tournament. That's another name. That Cal Poly has some surprisingly really good wrestlers in that lineup, but this is a guy, Bernie, who's a legit threat at this weight class. Okay. I'm not sure he's going to get All-American this year, but he's one of those guys, if we're going through weight classes, who I think can really surprise some people and knock off some top people. So to me, don't forget about this kid, Bernie Trout, because he's a legit wrestler. And I don't be surprised if he makes a little run here. We start seeing him kind of make it, as long as he doesn't get paused, you know, before the semis. I don't know what the breakouts are going to be, but this is a guy who can make a run of the finals.
Yeah, so Paz does need to mind his P's and Q's. You know, let's not pencil him in the finals yet. You do got Bernie Trout, you got Donnell Washington, who had a win over Carter last year. So you got Zach Bronigal. It's a tough out. You got Wilson. So there's some tough matches in there. Yep. I do think you heard it from the doctor in the post-match show last time. Paz has been widening the gap. So I do feel confident against these guys this year, where last year I think it would be a much closer match. I think Paz beats these guys by 3-4 points, you know, this year, where last year it would have been a last takedown or overtime match. I think Paz is making those jumps. But, you know, he needs to wrestle. He needs to wrestle the way he's been wrestling this year to get it done. I think there's not that big of a room for error. So, you know, I'm excited to see it.
97, John.
Yeah, 97, man. This is a weight I'm fired up about, because we saw Greg Bulzak, man. He's number 16. We saw him again, what he does against 18 through 25, right? He has 4 ranked win this year's, and they are dominant. Like, he destroyed them. So now we're in a weight class where there should be 6 guys ranked above them. You know, you got national finalist Nino Bonacorsi in there, multiple time All-American Jacob Warner from Iowa, ranked 5th, All-American Patrick Bruckey from Michigan. You got Pinola. We know that's a big 97-pounder. Owen Pretz from North Dakota State, big upset over the number 2 guy at nationals last year. And Jay Anello, I think he was the U23 world team member. So you got guys ahead of them, and 97 is a tough weight. So now we get to see Bulzak against these guys that are ranked ahead of him. And what do you think he's going to do, Jordan? You're wrestling with him every day. I mean, he's been looking tough.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. Like you said, I mean, he's probably the most battle-tested guy on our team, and specifically speaking about this season in terms of wrestling ranked guys. Seems like almost every week he's got someone through 25 through, like you said, 18. This is a big tournament for him, man. This is obviously he's a 4-time national qualifier, and he's beaten really good guys before. But this could be your defining moment of your 6th year, where you're like, everyone who wrote me off in years past as just that guy who's a national qualifier, who's going to be teeter around the 20 area, maybe 18 through 20. Like, no, I'm legit. And I think he is. I know he is. And I'm really, really looking forward to this. This weight at 197, not even in Midlands, in the country, I think it's probably the deepest weight. There's a lot of really good guys there, a lot of return All-Americans, a lot of guys who haven't done it yet, but have been on the cusp. And I think Greg is this tournament's gonna be big, man. I think Greg can win it. And I think there's going to be a lot of good competition and a lot of upsets. 97 is crazy. Yeah. Sometimes they don't score a lot, but I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, and you got two other names. The kid from Purdue, Panola, is always tough. I think he was a former heavyweight who's now kind of grown back down into 197. He's a really strong kid. D. Perez from Binghamton is obviously up to 197. Mm-hmm. He wrestled Paz, I think, in the quarters last year. Yeah. So there's a lot of tough names in this tournament. I agree with you, Jordan. This is, from the national perspective, when we get to nationals, it's going to be fun. I mean, Forster's already put in AJ Ferrari as a 5 or 6 or 8 time national champion. So I guess we should just give him the title now. But obviously Bondacorsi in this weight class is the big name, but there's a ton of tough names in this weight class. So I'm excited to see what Bolsack can do. My question isn't necessary for this tournament, but when you talk about Greg Bolsack, who's obviously a lot of experience, 5th-year senior, has made the national tournament for many years. It's no knock on Claren. Claren's a very solid program. But what do you think it's overrated, Jordan, to say that he's now in a room with Poznansky? He's obviously got, Miles in the room with him. Does having those guys pushing him in the room, is that what's putting him over the edge now, the fact that he's getting pushed every day in practice? Or do you think he's coming into his own in his 5th year?
I think it's a little bit of both. So I think he's finally, and again, this isn't a knock on Clarion, like you said. I mean, they always have some tough guys, some really tough PA kids. And we saw it when we wrestled them this year. They got some good guys on that team. But I think Greg's finally in a training situation where he's got elite level partners around him, 4 or 5 guys deep. And he's in a real wrestling culture, family. Yeah. We have an incredible facility at the ABC. He didn't have that when he was at Clarion. I think not only that helps him come into his own, where he's like, how can I not win a national title? How can I not be an All-American? How can I not win the Midlands? Look at my training situation. I can get a workout in whenever I want with a really good guy. I can get it on my own if it's a lift, if it's a cardio. And I think he can believe in his preparation, which allows him to believe in himself way more than he ever could in the years past. And I think we're seeing that. And he's so good and he's so freaking strong. I'm so excited for him, man. I'm really
confident, man. Dude, he's I said this when John and I did the preview. I knew who Bolsack was, and when he came over, I said, that's interesting, because obviously, we had a solid guy there at 184. But seeing him wrestle this season, and just, you can see that look in someone's face. It's almost if, who the hell are you to even be on the same mat as me? Okay. He's kind of got that look. It's a very intimidating, forceful look. And I'm not saying he's going to go ahead and knock a top 5 guy off, but I don't see anyone, maybe other than Sebastian Rivera, who appears to be. Alvarez has his own thing going on the mat. He's an interesting cat. But Bolsack, other than Sebastian Rivera, nobody looks like they have more confidence when they wrestle. Am I out of base on that, or is that accurate?
No, that's accurate. I think Seb's got that FU attitude, yeah. Like when you see him walking down the hall. Like that's just who he is, man. He's just he's just always angry, man. I don't know why. I love the kid, but he's always angry. Greg is a really nice kid, and he's usually smiling. But yeah, when he's on the mat, he's got that FU attitude, and he's on another level. He's on a new level right now, and he's been looking great.
Yeah, going to be a fun weight. And don't forget about Luke Stout, too, from Princeton. That's another guy that ranked number 18th right now. You see him possibly climbing in this fun weight class. And, I think if he makes the finals, he needs to wear the Spartan mask out there for the intros. That would be good. Spartan mask.
No doubt.
That'll be good. What's up with that sheet behind you, Jordan? I like it. It's like a cage sheet.
It's a curtain. It's a curtain.
It's like a cage curtain, man. I need it.
It's like Brock's tail, man. Stick them in the bathroom.
I might get them for the house here. Maybe see how my wife likes it. You know, she might get pissed off. But you better, send me that link. I'm gonna order some.
I will. I'll ask my mom where she got.
I'll have the cage curtains up. You know, that'll be cool. All right. So
heavyweight's gonna be fun, John.
Heavyweight is going to be fun, man, and I'm excited to see Boone in this mix. You know, he's been a fan favorite. You got Mason Paris, just coming off the Cleveland State Open, champion Big Tone Cassiope 2.0, jacked. Trent Hilger from Wisconsin, an All-American. Hendrickson from Air Force. Lucas Davidson from Wisconsin. Luke Luffman from Illinois. He had some big wins last year. So this is a pretty stacked weight class. What are your thoughts about that, Eric? Who's taking it? I think you're going to see a Tony Cassiope versus Mason Paris final.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to come down to. But let's not sleep on my man Jack Del Garbino from Princeton. Upset of the year early in the year against our man Cassiope. It's funny because we're talking about Cass, and I was BSing with somebody on the bench when we're actually watching, the Worlds take place and watching Tony win that. And the thought was, my God, man, this kid looks ripped. He's in shape. He almost looks like he's his younger, better shaped brother. And it was like, wow, he's not going to beat the big man. Okay. But maybe he's going to catch up to Mason Paris, and he just gets caught. It's almost like, what we saw from Sam earlier in the year. We got caught in the headlock throw, and you saw him kind of rolling with Garbino, and just, I don't know if he lost too much weight and kind of forgot how to finish that off. So to me, I'd be curious to see if he gets a shot at the Princeton wrestler again in this matchup. But no, with that said, John, I think that's the matchup. I think that's what we're going to see. But to me, I want to see Boone. I want to see Boone knock some guys off. I mean, kid's fun as hell to watch. Okay. He's scrappy as all heck. He's entertaining. I would love for him to go out there and finish top 5 in this weight class. I think he can. Obviously, there's a couple of big names that are missing from this tournament. So I think there's some, obviously, once you get past those top 2 wrestlers, and there's 1 or 2 other kind of big names in this weight class, I think Boone can make a Midlands run here. So don't be surprised if he can string 3 or 4 wins together in this weight class.
What are your thoughts, Jordan?
Yeah, I think I think the Cassiope thing, that was a really weird, I think like 1 in a million fluke. He kind of just got pushed over. I don't know how it happened. I think it had to do with maybe not realizing you actually have to hold someone there when you're not 280 pounds and you're like 40, whatever it is. Yeah. But he looks great, I think. And then in terms of Boone, kind of a similar thing with Shawver. I'd like to see him wrestle a full 7 minutes and not in these little bursts. You saw with Army, it was kind of, a snooze fest, and then it goes in overtime, and you pop one high crotch or high single, whatever you want to call it, and you're in on his leg right away. Like, dude, do that in the earlier, first 10 seconds of the match. Like, what are you holding on for? So I think that's kind of been what we've been telling him is you've got to have that little spurt the whole match. It can't be a little spurt. It's got to be consistent 7 minutes of wrestling. You can't choose to wrestle the first 20 seconds of overtime. And same with the Hofstra match. Got ridden out. He's kind of standing up and getting mat return. It's got to be a constant effort for 7 minutes every time. And that goes for every one of our wrestlers. But I think Boone is someone who it's got to be, you can't rely on a body lock, or you can't rely on being up 6-0 because you hit a body lock. You've got to do your high single, and you got to finish it, and then you got to ride him, and you got to turn him. You got to get to your Blair ride. So I'd like to see Boone wrestle a full 7, maybe get a lead early. And but yeah, like Eric said, I think Boone can make some noise. I think he can rattle off 4 or 5 wins, whether it's on the front side or back side. I definitely think we see Boone on the podium.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm with you. I think a top 5 finish for Boone would be awesome. And I think he has the ability to do that, and looking for him to just be consistent for the full match. He's an exciting wrestler, fan favorite, got the mullet, and
I hate the mullet. I hate it.
I love the mullet, man.
I hate it. I hate it
so let's give our Rutgers headline for after Midlands. What are we going to say about how Rutgers did? You go first, Eric. What are your thoughts?
I got one number, 110. And 110 was the points we put up in 2015. And we didn't have a Midlands champ that year. I think Ashnall took fourth. A couple of guys took fourth. But I think that was our highest finish for 2015. So to me, the headline is 110 or bust. That's what we want to go after. I think this is obviously from a tournament perspective, probably one of the better weights we had. We were expecting to have Troy this year. And I'm going to say something unpopular because I don't want to get into this, but Jordan, you know more than I do. I don't have any inside information other than what Goodell has said about whether he really is 100% healthy. There's part of me that says, should we just shut it down this year? This kid's got too much to do for the back end of his career. I would love to see him here. So I'm counting the fact that Turley's not going to wrestle, but even with Turley out of this, I think we've got an opportunity if everything falls into place to maybe break that 2015 number. And that's what I want to see, John. Break 110. Let's make a real run. Let's get a top 3 finish and let's go home with some confidence.
That'd be nice. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I think team title or bust, no second, no third. Especially nice. with guys probably like, your big names like Iowa, with Spencer Lee probably not wrestling. Maybe Kemmer doesn't wrestle. We don't even know if Ironman's wrestling. I think if Iowa doesn't have their hammers in, we can make a serious run at a team title. Not
nice.
even second or third. I think second or third is, the back of our heads right now. Obviously, that's great. We want that. But I think, we want to make a serious run at this team trophy. So, yeah, kind of like 110 or bust, maybe, number 1 or bust. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and you know what, I'm going to go here. I think I think we had one Midlands champ in history. I think we're going to double that. I think it's going to be RU times 2. I think we're going to get 2 guys winning this. That would be awesome. Don't know what combo it's going to be. There's a lot of people here. I think Bullsack. I think Alvarez. I think Paz. I think Seabass. I think Rutgers gets 2 champs. I think you come out of Midlands with 2 champs. That's saying a lot. That's saying you got 2 guys that are, knocking on the door for a national title. I think they bring a bunch of All-Americans. Hey, I hear the music. Great show, guys. Thanks for coming with us, Jordan. Good to see you, Eric. Have a very Merry Christmas, everybody. Make sure you follow us. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook now with all the kids. Get on there. Follow the site. My meme game is coming strong at you. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us on YouTube. Anywhere you get your podcast. Breakdown from the barn. Talk to you guys later.